I'll announce.
Turn the dial, turn it loud. Miami's pride, make us proud. CanesWear crew, you hear the crowd. Hurricanes ain't backing down. Every play, every score. Raising bets and raising roar. Rocking orange, green galore. All for one and one for four. We got FTSN, taking names, win it again. Podcast fam, till the end. Tune in, now let's begin.
Hello, and thank you for joining the CanesWear podcast live on the FTSN network. You got Gio is going to be here today, as you see. Armando coming in shortly, and we're looking for an exciting show. Before we start, I do want to say we do have a 15-year anniversary special going on right now. It's till 11 p.m. tonight. $25 off any $50 ticket, Gio. So any $50 purchase, I should say. Tonight only, it's a flash sale. It's been on from 1 o'clock today till 11 tonight. So promo code is 2550. So at the checkout, 2550, you'll save $25 off any $50 or more purchase. And that is a flash sale for today. We're going to be doing lots of fun things for our 15th anniversary. And we're excited tonight to talk Canes football, the little Canes basketball, and whatever you guys want to talk about. Gio, welcome to the show.
Hey, Brett. It's been a fun week since basically last Wednesday. Miami's got 2 commits already in football over the past week, and they landed a basketball commit today too. So things are moving along pretty well. Couple of guys that have been out with some injuries during spring practice, they're back now this week. Guy in C.J. Daniels for wide receiver. So they're on the up and up.
Awesome. So who did we get today?
Well, on the football side, you got J.J. Sparks from Jacksonville, Florida, the Bowles School. Not traditionally a school that Miami has landed kids from over the years. After one guy a couple years back, Jack Pyburn, who ended up it was expected that he was going to commit to Miami. Florida decided to offer at the last minute, and the kid had to sign with Florida. Ironically enough, the kid's with L now. He left the Gators program in that sinking dumpster fire from last season.
Absolutely. So what is his name again? From that's the Jacksonville Dolphins he's coming from?
The Jacksonville. So he plays at the Bowles School up there.
Okay, cool. All right. So we've got him. All right.
He's about 6. So he plays at the Bowles School up there.
All right, great. So and who else did we get today?
Yeah, so you had him. You also had the basketball commitment. Big man, by the way, not a tiny little guy either. Hold on one second, because I don't want to butcher his name here.
I saw that name. That's why I didn't want to say it.
Malik Renew. I don't want that wrong, but there's over 13 points last year, 7 rebounds. Big man, big body that's needed within that for Miami, and just overall they got to rebuild an entire roster. They just had another kid hit the transfer portal this afternoon.
Yes, I know we lost Nigel Pack, right? Is that official?
Yes, yeah. That was a long time coming. I mentioned that over on my private board some months
ago. You were the one that came out with that. I think you went ahead and scooped that. So congratulations on that. If you listen to Gio's, you see Gio on Twitter or your X, or you see him on his Discord, you'll be the first to know these amazing trinkets of information you'll only get there.
Well, I will pat on the. I will. The football commit today was a little bit of a surprise. The name that wasn't the 2 names that were shared with me coming out of the weekend. They had a big spring pool party bash at UM after they finished up their script on Saturday. They had over 40 blue chip kids in attendance, 2026, 2027, all those guys. But that was the names that was shared with me. So I was actually a little taken aback, whoa, okay. This happened fairly quick because it wasn't mentioned over the weekend.
Mm-hmm.
Hey,
So
but
that's.
good always take.
I'm sorry.
Always take good news.
Absolutely, absolutely. So these are recruits for 2026.
Yes, correct.
And when does the transfer portal open up again?
That is April 14th. So there will be 15-day window for guys to whether they want to head the transfer portal and then guys don't have to make their decision within those. They still have a little bit of time, but then you're talking about enrollment dates. Some schools put their stuff up in May, sometime in June. They have
Mhm.
double enrollment dates as well. The intricacies like that.
All right. So yeah, so April 14th. So the deadline is a week, you said, or it's a little bit longer?
It's about 15 days.
15 days. Okay. So how many players can the Canes add in that NIL? How many are they looking to add, and how many can they add?
I think just based on the feedback coming out of the scrimmages and then just practice this week as well. Miami, it's a non-negotiable. They do want a proven, productive wide receiver. They've
Mhm.
gotten a lot of turns with some of these young Joe Trader, Malachi Tony, Ray going to step up now. Knight has had moments. A guy who's really stepped up over the last couple practices, Dalen Up, the freshman from the state of Alabama. He really impressed some people over the last couple practices. Josh a week ago. You got Daniels healthy now. They won't get themselves insurance in regards to you don't want to go into a season with the mind like, oh yeah, for sure these young guys they're going to carry over what they did in practice over
Mhm.
in season. It doesn't always work that way. Some guy gets the game day and they kind of choke or they freeze up and they're not exactly the same as it is at practice. So they want a proven wide receiver. I know they're open to potentially taking two, but is a non-negotiable that's happening. A depth running back because you only have 4 scholarship running backs now. And then
Mhm.
a couple of depth pieces on the offensive line. They want one or two younger guys on the Coach Mirabal, about 7 to 8 guys he can trust a role in this team. But from their mindset and their thinking, they would love to have complete lines they could roll out there, and there won't be much drop from the second unit.
All
And
right.
then
So,
defense, you also have defensive tackles. They got some talent near up there with a transfer, David Blay, who's really, really shown out since the on. At
mhm.
this, Justin Scott going to step forward. Moten is much more ready to play more. Uh, they want one more guy, the defensive tackle. Happy with what they have at defensive end.
Mhm.
I know for a fact that they're not going to turn away the chance to have top flight pass rusher on the portal. They'll do that too. Linebacker is another non-negotiable. They want back safety as well. There's been some flashes from some young guys like Dylan Day or returning guys that have been here multiple years, like Markeith Williams. He's had his moment in practice, but
Mhm.
want to get another guy next to Zachariah Poyser that they know for sure will produce.
So we need safety, linebacker. We need more than one linebacker, right?
I know they're looking for one linebacker. I don't know if it ends up more, but I know for sure that it is one linebacker for sure they want.
All right. So one linebacker, is that enough for us? Isn't that position that we're probably the
Well,
weakest?
you got some guys there. Here's uh, still a little bit down. He has his moments where he just like, wow. And then other times you kind of left scratching your head. You'd hope
Mhm.
he becomes more consistent as we get close to this. Popo has had his too. They're hoping he continues to take another step in development. Most play in terms of the linebackers in spring so far has been Cam Bobbitt. Kid had last year as a freshman that he got a couple times, made splash plays when he had the chance, even on special teams too. He's got a little bigger this year to add some weight, But in terms of like that impact potential that someone could possibly, it's him. He's flashed the most in terms of that ability on the field. But then you got young Kellen Wiley, Ezekiel Marcelin, and they're still very young and green that they're still going to need some time too.
Awesome. I see Mondo has just jumped in. Mondo, welcome to the show.
Hey, what's up, guys?
Doing good. You're looking sharp in your Canes shirt, your Canes hat. Fantastic. He's out there.
I wonder where I got it.
Absolutely. CanesWear, which, by the way, Mondo, today until 11 p.m., $25 off any purchase of $50 or more. Just go to the website, CanesWear.com, and go ahead and put in the promo code 2550, and you save $25 off any $50 item or more. Canes, Panthers, by the way, they're playing tonight. Heat, even, who've got a 5-game winning streak right now. So a lot going on. Inter Miami and Messi. So a lot of things. CanesWear.com, $25 off $50 purchase. Well, we got the people here. Let's see who we got. We got Jacoby Graggs, Real Ball Knowers back. Awesome. That's good to know. We're here. Thanks for joining the show. We got Joshua Williams. Hey, Joshua, April 16th to 25th is the 10-day portal period this exciting spring. That's good. Hi, Lorraine. Good to see you on the show. Jacoby says, online, I don't see us going to get, I don't know, going to get who? Anyone, he's probably saying? On the O-line?
Well, I think he means offensive line. Well,
okay.
So they were, hopefully my connect, what's been going on with my internet, but for some reason it drops in and out when we're on this stream. But
I know we have to be technically challenged.
So in terms of the O-line and Jacoby's question there, Miami targeted a couple guys before this and like depth O-line pieces. Like they were looking at one of these kids that ended up going to Florida State, kids that had connections previously to the state of Florida that played their high school here as well. Yeah, it's always tough to sell to a kid like, hey, you know, if we're in here, we should compete, but more so it's going to be, you're going to be behind our veteran guys up front. It's kind of a hard sell, even for like the depth piece at running back. I know Miami really wants one. Really difficult to sell that, but that's also what you see in terms of how Miami's recruiting this year. Their running back board is vast. I'm sure Mondo attests to it as well. The amount is they're going after at the running back position.
Mondo, any comments on the running back position?
No, I know Gio was kind of breaking up there at the end, but I mean, Gio alluded to it last week. Lyle, Fletcher, you mentioned last week that Fletcher was in the best shape that you've seen him in, correct?
Yes.
And our O-line, they keep stacking pieces. So, and again, like I mentioned last week on here, I mean, we don't have the number one pick in the draft anymore at quarterback. Our defense is going to be markedly better. I mean, it's not saying that's easily done, but they are going to be a lot better. They've stacked up the secondary. They're not going to be playing in 42 to 40 shootouts every week. They're not going to be facing deficits every week. So to me, they're going to throw. Of course, they're going to throw the ball. But I know Brett loves to hear this. They're going to run a lot more. It's going to be better defense, more running. They will throw the ball, absolutely. But I think you're going to see a more balanced team this year compared to last year's because of a better defense. And the quarterback is obviously not as good as a number one overall pick like Ward.
Absolutely. No, I like to run. I would have liked to run more last year, but I'm not all about running. I'm about whatever works. If the running game is gashing through them, just brings me back memories of the 2000 season when we could have ran through Washington, and we went ahead and didn't, and we ended up losing that game, and it cost us a shot at the national championship that year. And then also, obviously, the more famous game, the 1987 the 87 game against Penn State. For the national championship, not 87, 86, I'm sorry, the Jerome Brown, the Fatigues, and Alonzo Highsmith would still be running on that team if Vinny would have handed him the ball a little bit. We'd have 6 or 7 or 8 national championships. Who knows?
Yeah,
so,
and to piggyback on last year's team, I was hearing on the radio today while on the road at work, Todd McShay, I think he used to be on ESPN, and he's now like a draft analyst, and they were talking about the draft, and they were asking him about the Penn State tight end. And then he brought up Arroyo and Jason Taylor's son, Mason. He mentioned that Mason wasn't used properly at LSU. He said Arroyo and Mason Taylor could be top 40 picks in the draft.
Really?
Oh, yeah. He said it today.
Yeah, I believe it.
Yeah.
I was at a golf tournament with Troy Drayton, who used to play for the Dolphins in Penn State, tight end, and he said the Dolphins will be they do want a solid, someone like a Mason that can go ahead and be like a George Kittle. They want a George Kittle type that can block and can receive. I mean, right now, Jonah is awesome in receiving, but, they want a guy that can be there all the time as well. So
yeah, and something interesting he mentioned also is that he said that Shadur Sanders and Jackson Dart, he said a couple teams actually have Dart ranked ahead of Sanders, and him himself has them ranked even. So he thinks Sanders will go 2 or 3, but if he doesn't, he might free fall because a lot of teams don't need quarterback right now.
That's a good point. So, where do you see him? Did you see him or are you listening to him?
No, I was listening to what McShay was saying today about Arroyo and the draft and all that. And then he was asked about Shadur Sanders. He said he probably will go 2 or 3, but if he doesn't, he'll fall, not because he stinks or anything, because other teams don't need quarterback.
I think Dart's special. I think Dart, I know they didn't even have him in the first round, which was crazy. But in a year that there's so few quarterbacks, and let's face it, it's hit or miss with a lot of these guys. I mean, not only how they played in college, you look at all the guys that are drafted first 5 picks in the draft, and the teams give up on them after a couple of years. I mean, the Dolphins, just got the guy from the Jets. Who was a high pick, and it's happening all over the league. So it's a lot for a quarterback to jump on, especially when he's starting right away. So it's total crapshoot.
No, and we're talking about how the team's going to be this year. We talked about it at length last week. As far as the pass catchers, what's that going to look like? Because when talking about Arroyo, you're talking about what now they're saying top 40 pick. You lose that, you lose a number 1 pick in the draft. So that's interesting. You're losing heavy weaponry there.
But did we use Arroyo like a top 40 drafted player?
The thing was because remember, if you put him, let's say you put him in Penn State replacing Tyler Warren, he's probably getting 10 targets a game. Mm-hmm. Here he had X, he had George, he had the running backs. There's only one football. There's only so many targets you can give everybody. If that guy wasn't a team that had no weapons, easy 10 to 12 targets a minimum a week for sure.
Yeah.
What's your thought on that, Gio?
No, I agree with him 100% on that. And actually, it doesn't surprise me about Elijah Arroyo. He's much faster than a lot of the tight ends that are in this draft. I know he didn't get a test between the combine and pro day, and a lot of that had to do. He had an injury that happened at the Senior Bowl, and unfortunate, he was able to test. He would have blown it out the water. I'm talking about he is freakish for a tight end prospect. Almost runs like a wide receiver when he gets the ball in his hands in the open field. So it doesn't shock me there. And then the comment about Mason Taylor, you know what's funny about that? I was in a chat, or I said it at some point, but I mentioned that, I felt that LSU didn't really know how to use Mason Taylor either. Like some people say, no, but he ended up being going to be a high draft pick or whatever. I don't think they used him enough at all.
Didn't seem that way. It seems like, and the funny thing is that ironic that Jason Taylor is coach here. It seems like everybody says that about our players only. The Canes don't know how to utilize. For years they've said this, and frankly, we have done better in the pros than in, it seems like than in college. Yeah, a lot of these players, but I am sure it goes on everywhere. I mean that players are not utilized they need to be. And too bad. I wonder if he would have been here, Jason Taylor, then. I mean, he actually was here at that time, wasn't he, when Mason Taylor was a freshman? Wasn't he here the first year?
I believe so, or just starting out, possibly, maybe.
Yes and no. So when Mason had already signed, JT was not here yet.
Was he an analyst, or was he something he couldn't do something because he was either his son was playing or there was some rule, I thought. That only counts for the Hurricanes. If you're Alabama or LSU or Texas, you can do whatever you want. You can have your dad there, your mom there, the brother, they're all on the coaching staff, coaching the family. Jacoby said something good point. We have 8 scholarship linebackers. Do you think we need 10? He knows the stuff.
I don't think they necessarily need 10. I just think it's more so they need a guy that they know for sure is going to make some type of impact this year. Someone that is going to be a tone setter in the middle of that defense. And that's something it's lacking a little bit right now in terms of what's going on in spring practice. Like Wesley Basant, he has his moments, but he's still up and down like what we've seen. It doesn't seem like he's put it all together just yet. Now, I'm not, Wesley can't have a jump between now and fall, but, that's a complete unknown. Sometimes you just don't know, and sometimes that happens. Guy.
I mean, who do you think, let's say on the defensive side of the ball, since we're right there with Wesley Basant, who do you think this year could just really surprise everybody and we'll say, wow, we didn't know this guy was that good on the defense?
I don't think it'll be much of a surprise because of how much we've talked, but Xavier it seriously could be the best cornerback on this team. And it's such a crazy to say because of watching OJ Frederick last year, and you think to yourself, damn, he was a freshman All-American last year. Well, funny enough, Miami's got another same caliber who's actually an even better athlete than OJ is, because OJ is a heck of an athlete too.
Now, do you think both of these can be shutdown corners? Are they better against the run? What do you see in these two guys?
Well, biggest thing in terms of Xavier Lucas, and I've heard this from Hurricane fans over the years say, why don't our defensive backs turn back for the ball? Why don't they play the ball? Xavier Lucas has been doing quite a bit of that in practice. Like just the awareness, the instincts, it's just natural for him. I think just both from a physical standpoint, they help a lot. You're talking about Xavier Lucas is about 6'2", 195, 200 pounds, ran a 10.4 100-meter and coming out of high school. Heck of an athlete. OJ Frederick, you're talking about another guy that's like 6'1", 200 pounds. He's well, you ever seen the pictures of OJ, and it's just like last year you even thought to yourself, how is this kid a freshman? He doesn't look like a freshman, but he was. And those two guys just specifically being on the outside, I think they give that perspective of you see these SEC teams here like Alabama and Georgia, and they have these cornerbacks that like look like they were out of the lab, like just straight out of a lab.
I remember watching Gio last year at Tennessee, and if I'm not mistaken, their secondary coach is Martinez, isn't it? A former Miami guy. Yeah, I remember watching Tennessee. I forgot who they were playing mid-season, maybe a full game, and I watched their defense and their secondary, and I was like, damn, these corners look like they're like third-year NFL guys.
Exactly.
Their size, and it was crazy.
What are the height of OJ and of Xavier? How tall?
So Xavier's about 6'2", OJ is around 6'1". That's what they have. A guy that's on the smaller side that I think he's going to bring a lot to the table. He's just been very consistent throughout practice. Charles Brantley, or they also call him Chuck.
I was going to ask you about him right now. I was about to ask you about him.
Yeah, he's having a heck of a spring. Actually, him and JoJo Trader, they hurt a lot in practice. They're always competing, which is great. Really? But so with him, he's on the smaller side. I would say maybe like 5'10", 5'11", may not be any more than 160, 170 pounds, but he packs a punch when he hits. You wouldn't think so for a guy that stature, but he's very feisty, very sticky as well in coverage in terms of like even like his press technique, which I brought up to some people that, they have a legitimate conversation of whether they want to play Brantley on the boundary or at nickel cornerback, because he could do both, like no problem at all. And some people forget this too, at least in the Big Ten last year, like he allowed in coverage, like near top 3 in the country, last cornerbacks in general.
So speaking of, the guys that are lesser of height, when you see JoJo, well, JoJo is 6'1", isn't he?
Yes.
Okay. Who's going to be returning kicks for us this year?
Well, guys that are in that discussion right now and practicing there, you guys like Ray Joseph, Malachi Tony competing there, Gerard Pringle. I know Dalen Upshaw's gotten some reps there as well. I may be forgetting one or two guys are also in the mix there, but for the most part, it's been that.
Mm-hmm. Now, who would you say, is any of them a home run threat, or has anyone? I mean, obviously, high school's a different place, but is anyone a home run threat that we can see, like some of the guys we've had in the past, from Roscoe Parrish to Devin Hester to who else? Kevin Williams. We've had some beasts in the past that could just take it to the house at any time.
Santana
We missed
Moss.
that. We definitely missed that.
Yeah.
And we had
they always say this about football. Football is a game of three phases. You have your offense, your defense, and special teams. And usually when you can win two out of those three, you can win the ball game. Right? You're winning on two out of those three sides. Miami hasn't had that aspect. I agree with you, Brett, of having a dangerous return man lining up back there. You kind of strike fear in teams like, okay, like we kind of got to kick away from him. Like Miami's had of punters recently, kickers, great too, between the Borregales brothers or the punters, Dylan Joyce and oh my God, I'm drawing a blank now. Lou Headley was playing for the Saints last year. But I agree 100% with you that it would be nice to see that. I know teams nowadays, they're kind of scheming more on like how to not get the ball in a return man's hands and whatnot. Is all the things that are changing now with the game. But I agree with you that you need someone back there with juice. And I know people were hoping last year that Chris Johnson was going to be that guy. And I don't want to like rush out and say, like, for example, I would think Gerard Pringle would be great. Running back, a freshman running back that they brought in, super fast kid. He ran like a 10.5 in the 100-meter. Would be a nice fit as a kick return man. But sometimes we really don't even know until these games arrive, until those live moments arrive, what these kids are really going to be made of. Because Chris Johnson, he was ridiculous speed, and it just didn't work. He was just running into the back of his blockers. There's just no vision there. Hope the kid does well at SMU, but it just didn't work out here.
And then on the flip side, we talked about it last week, the kick coverage.
Oh, yeah.
We definitely were on the negative. If it was like basketball or hockey, I should say, plus minus, or even basketball. If they did a plus minus on the special teams, which would be a great statistic, I think, if they could start it now. They could just call it the CanesWear plus minus on special teams. I mean, we seem to have lost that battle every single year. It's just, I mean, when you win special teams, it is such a big lift for the team. The offense has to do less. The defense has to do less. I mean, we say it's 1/3 the game, but sometimes it seems like it's much bigger.
I thought Gio was going to drop his weekly Jeff Fiegels reference. I'm very disappointed.
No, but look, I'm right on. I think Brett's right on the money, though, just about the special teams problems in general. Between the kickoff coverage unit, not having a dynamic return man. I know a lot of teams and coaches, they love to have that sure-handed guy back there on punt returns. And some people would freak out about this, like even dating back to Braxton Berrios. But I understand it from a coaching perspective that, look, okay, like punt returns, you have these gunners getting right up in your face as you're about to catch the ball. I'm sure a coach wants a sure-handed guy that you know that he is not going to drop that ball, because I could go back to the days of Miami lost against Texas A&M a few years ago when Tyreek Stevenson dropped that punt return.
Yeah.
Or Miami lost that game against Florida and Orlando when Jeff Thomas fumbled that punt return. Those were back-breaking plays. So I understand
both those games because of that. Correct.
No, Gio makes a good point. I think coaches do prefer the sure-handed or the sometimes fair catch and return 7-8 yards versus the one guy that can hit you the home run, but every time the ball goes up, you're like literally like praying that he doesn't fumble. So I totally get what Gio's saying.
Yeah, we've definitely seen that. But it's amazing. There are guys out there that can do them both. We just have to find them.
Yeah. They kind of
But-
seem like a needle in the haystack. Last guy that I remember, I thought he was a rock star in terms of special teams and offense, and people don't realize like the type of season that he was on pace for his last year here at Miami. DJ Dallas, he was a
DJ Dallas was a beast. Yes, he definitely could take it to the house. Never forget the Virginia Tech game when he. No, he was definitely special, and he's done it in the NFL a couple of times, hasn't he?
He is the first player. I got a fun fact. He is the first player to house a kickoff return in the NFL with the new rules now.
Really?
Wow.
That was the first game or second game, wasn't it?
Yep.
It was early in the season. So, no, he was something else. That was a guy on draft day that wanted the Dolphins to draft so bad. We didn't. He hasn't had, I thought he would have a bigger career, but he's had, you're in the NFL for what, 7 years now, and you're still playing and relevant. That's special in the NFL. So you can have a 10-year career and you've got it made. But I agree on that. That is a fun fact, and it's great to see them. It's great to see all the Hurricane players. Speaking of tight ends and tight end did you see that stat? I posted it. I'm sure a bunch of other people posted it on tight ends in the NFL. What was it? Since 2000, the Hurricanes have 297 touchdowns by a tight end. The next team is Iowa at 199.
Jeez, that's crazy.
I mean, so 297 is amazing. Teams like Georgia, 100. Tennessee, 106. I mean, Notre Dame, 173. You think Notre Dame. Not even a Penn State in there. The amazing 297. And we've really only been relevant 2000, 2001, 2002. Since then, we have not been that relevant. So it's pretty spectacular, that accomplishment. You think about all the great tight ends that have come through here. Obviously, we had Shockey. We had Bubba Franks, I think was before that, but I could be wrong.
Yeah, I think so.
We had Shockey, Jimmy Graham, Greg Olson, obviously the big three. Brevin Jordan, obviously, we all wish he would have stayed a little bit longer. He's done okay.
Yeah, Winslow,
exactly, yes.
Winslow, David Njoku.
Oh, Njoku,
correct. Yeah, and he's still going right now. I know there's a couple we're missing, but for that group to have 297 touchdowns, I mean, that just number is hard to fathom.
That's pretty wild.
That is pretty wild. So there's got to be. I know both Olsen and Graham should be Hall of Famers.
Yeah, I think there's a good chance that Jimmy Graham gets into the Hall of Fame. They've discussed it quite a bit. He kind of revolutionized that tight end position quite a bit. You see Travis Kelce now and everything, but really one of the first guys that became that pseudo wide receiver / tight end, like a flex player on offense. Jimmy Graham was really his pioneers doing that.
Yeah, I will say
basketball.
Yeah, I will say the NFL compared to other Hall of Fames, the NFL is really tough to get into. There's only like 360 Hall of Famers or something like that. Really? It's crazy. It's very when you have a chance, go ahead and look up the best players not ever to make the Hall. It's crazy. I was looking at it the other day, like Torrey Holt, and you would think Torrey Holt was the first ballot. Not even. He's been out there 5-6 years. He can't get in. It's crazy.
In baseball, it seems like they take everybody. Nothing against Scott Rowland or anyone like that.
You're still not over that one, are you?
Let's put it this way: Zach Thomas didn't get into the Hall of Fame until last year. Yeah. That's insane. How long he was waiting and the career that he had.
Yep.
What about O.J. Anderson? I mean, had a great year, a great career. I think, did he have 10,000 yards? I mean, he was a Super Bowl MVP, 2-time Super Bowl winner. He can catch, he can run. I mean, he definitely deserves to be in the Hall of Fame.
Well, a lot of people thought he was a former Giant. A lot of people thought Eli Manning would get in because of the Hall of only because of the Super Bowls and that he beat Brady twice or whatnot. He didn't get in. So
he'll get in. Eli Manning will get in.
Well, if you look at his numbers, he's been a big debate forever. His numbers are not Hall of Fame worthy at all. I think, not that they were bad, but he's not a Hall of
He was unstoppable in the playoffs. In the playoff runs, he was unstoppable in those 2 years. People say Russell Wilson. They talk about, who is it? The guy Jeff used to play for the Falcons. What was his name?
Jeff Gart? No.
He played. Actually, he was a Hurricane, and then he went over to with a G.
Jeff Garcia?
Oh,
Not
Jeff
Jeff Garcia. There was Jeff.
with a G?
The name was escapes me. Was it Jeff? Maybe it wasn't Jeff. Okay. Let me have another shot. Okay.
How many beers is that?
So now, wasn't who was the guy for the Falcons? Now it's got me. He was he played for the Hurricanes and he transferred out of here and he went somewhere else. Let's see someone on the board ring it up and say
Which position? You talking about quarterback?
yes, quarterback. It's not Jeff. I don't think so. Miami DU says Mondo, shout out. Duck, Ramp Monsters is in the house. Duck is here, everybody. Jacoby says two of the running backs was after committed to elsewhere. Who else are we going after? Running back Gio. We'll get to that in a second. Gio, tell us, who else? Do we know who we wanted a running back?
Well, they've really have expanded their board this year in terms of running backs. The absolute top guy is Derek Cooper, and I've shared times I have a pick in for Miami to land him, dating back since January. I haven't moved off of that. Georgia in the mix, Ohio State, but Miami continues to set the pace there. His mother was actually on campus recently as well. A couple other key names to know there. Javion Osborne, running back from Texas as well. I know some people have questions about Tredarian Ball, who was just on campus, and one of the other top 3 running backs in the country. He recently said that he decided to shut down his recruitment. So, sometimes those things happen. Some kids say that, but then they still take calls and recruiting questions and whatnot. So you never truly know. But the name that I want people to focus on that I think does not get spoken about enough, Henry Ollinger, 6'1", over 210-pound running back, going under the radar, but Miami really likes him, they're high on him, and there's a lot of consistent dialogue between both parties there.
Awesome. So that's
So if I was going to ask Gio, if something were to, I was thinking about it earlier, talking about Lyle and Fletcher. Obviously, long season, goes without saying, running back's a brutal position. If something were to happen to one of them, who would be the next guy up to go into the top 2 as far as a rotation?
I know they're really excited about Gerard Pringle. He's shown some flashes, but I know the sense right now they feel is that, yes, they have 2 guys right now between Lyle and Fletcher. They're not entirely confident yet in what's behind them. Like Chris Wheatley-Humphrey, he's shown some flash. Pringle has as well, but they don't feel like they have like a true thoroughbred behind Fletcher and Lyle.
So Pringle is not 1A, 1B, 1C. He's a step behind them.
At least right now, where he is with the pecking order and how things have shaked out with spring, it's not like a knock on him or anything. He's a fast kid and whatnot, but for what Miami wants to do and likes to do in terms of the run game, still has to put on a little bit of size as well.
Awesome. So let's get to a few more comments and questions. Looks like Duck is all about running. Throwing is about interceptions. I do agree if you have the running game going and you're getting 5 yards a carry or so, why go away from it? Use the pass intermittently. Not every year you're going to have a Cam Ward. Let's see. Hopefully we're going to be in good shape at quarterback this year, though. Let's see. 305 Sports Now says hello. Joshua Williams or Brian Kelly sucks. Okay, there you go. Any chance, Joshua, any chance any defensive guys from Minnesota may hit the portal to follow Heatherman, Gio? Good question.
None that I've heard of. I have heard some chatter about potentially a defensive back interested in following one of Miami's 2 defensive back coaches to Miami. We'll see if that, materializes. You hear a lot of things around this time of the year, and usually the reason why that happens is the agents of these kids. Now these kids have NIL agents when they're in college, and a lot of agents, they put out feelers to different schools and talking with people that, hey, we might be interested in going here. And this is why you also see when kids hop into the transfer portal nowadays, they already kind of have a general idea of what schools they're going to look at. It's not really with the sense that I'm going to hop in the portal and then I'm going to figure it out. If you're one of the top kids, you already know the schools you're going to be looking at even before you go in there. So it's kind of hard to even prove tampering these days too for most schools.
Yeah, it's a different world, that's for sure. You can get away with a lot more than you did, which is kind of crazy. Let's see. Who we got? Dylan Day. Jacoby says Dylan Day is going to be a big surprise. You back that?
Yes, he's had some moments throughout spring practice. He's flashed a bit, but just sentiment that they have in terms of the safety position, they feel like they got a dude in Zachariah Poyser, but they really, really, really want to add another guy on the other side of him at safety that is productive and someone they know for sure they're going to get something out of this year. They don't want to run into the situation of a what if Zaquan Patterson takes the next step? What if Markeith Williams becomes consistent? What if Dylan Day takes the next step? They want a surefire thing next to Poyser.
Awesome. Question. Do you guys, this is an excellent question because I really do believe that I question this as well. Shannon Dawson. Okay. First year he was handcuffed by Tyler. Last year he had a generational type of QB. What should we expect from Shannon Dawson this year? Is he more like when he was with Tyler, or like when he was with Cam, somewhere in the middle? What do you expect from him?
I think you'll see something somewhere more in the middle. I think Cam is a generational talent that came through this program that we were all very blessed to watch him quarterback this team. It was a spectacle to watch. I think Beck is very talented in his own right. A bit different as a quarterback than Cam. Does some things a little better than Cam. Cam does other things that are better. But I just think from the aspect of like pure raw talent, Cam was generational. I don't think Carson is a generational quarterback, but I do think he's a great quarterback, though. You can't deny 24-3. People will argue, well, he was at Georgia, but regardless, you can't deny that he's won 24 out of 27 games he's played in college football. You can't just ignore that. The guy has experience. He's won and played in important games. And it's not like he's ever really been blown off the field either in his career, too.
Yeah, his supporting cast, and I'm going to watch the rest of the way because one of my kids is going crazy. I already got the call from the bullpen from the wife. But, his supporting cast last year, Georgia, when I think their quote-unquote weapons were not good.
Correct, yes, was stepped down.
I mean, not to excuse all his interceptions, but that he had his rise in picks, but I was reading up on it and stuff and watching that their skill positions for Georgia was not anywhere near what it was before.
Correct. Actually, fun fact, wide receivers it was a little over 700 yards worth of yards in drop passes last year.
Yes, I heard that stat. Probably
that's
from you.
great. The whole
That's crazy.
That's amazing. That's amazing. So if you don't have receivers that you can trust, and you don't have receivers he relied on Bowers, wasn't it? Brock Bowers the year before a lot. If you don't have that safety valve, even if Cam didn't have, he had Xavier this year. So if you don't have that safety valve that you can go to, there's going to be a lot more interceptions. You see it in the NFL, you see it in college.
And you saw what Brock Bowers did with the Raiders this year. The guy turned into the best tight end halfway through the season. It was crazy.
Exactly. A beast.
Yeah.
A beast. That's what I did on my fantasy team. Actually, I did have my fantasy team.
You're always about you, Brett. Yeah, I'm going to let you guys go. But much love, guys. All right?
All right, Mondo. Thanks for coming in. Appreciate you.
So I'll share with you this, though, Brett. Elijah Lofton has pretty much been the most consistent and best player on offense spring, like as a skill position guy. Carson Beck loves himself some tight ends. So we'll see.
So you think that's a good point, that he did utilize the tight end before. So you think Lofton's going to have a monster year?
Yes, as long as no big injury happens, he should have a big year. And I know someone asked about Alex Bowman, the tight end they got in from. They're actually really excited about him. and I'll explain briefly. Number one, he was a little nicked up when spring started, missed a little bit of time. He's healthy now. He's practicing. The early returns on him that I was told from very close source to the program was that the biggest thing for them with him was how consistent he is. Like, he may not be like a wow type of guy like Elijah Lofton. You look at him play and he looks like a mini truck out there with a ball in his hands. But Alex Bowman is that's gonna help this team this year.
Awesome, good to know. So you think he'll be in there early, or you think he'll be more of a midseason?
Bowman? Yeah, no, he'll be playing right out the
gate. All right, awesome to know. Cristofaro and Jake both said Jeff George, and that was who I was thinking of. I was confusing him with, so Jeff George was the quarterback who actually came to Miami, but there was too much competition, so he left. All right.
Yes.
And so Jeff George, and I was confusing with Matt Ryan for a moment. That's why. So it was Matt Ryan I was talking about, Hall of Fame, but Jeff George was the name that I was that I was trying to spit out there. That's why Jeff Garcia was close. Yes, he was correct. Absolutely, Jake. He was the quarterback back in the day. Thanks for you guys for jumping in on that and helping out the hosts. Let's see. Blue is always late. We all are. Don't worry about it. Did you see Kirby complaining about tampering and the agent shopping lists around to other colleges? What's that about, Gio?
Yeah. That's what I was saying earlier about the transfer portal. That's what's happening now with these kids. Mm-hmm. It's not necessarily that these kids are reaching out to the schools. It's that they're going through their agents for this. Just like with the NFL. This is what you see in the NFL too, that guys will complain or they get mad and they want out and they tell their agent, hey, for example, look at the Myles Garrett situation in the Cleveland Browns. He ended up staying, he got paid, but he went through his agent. I'm not happy here, release a statement and everything and put it out there. And then Cleveland had to start shopping him around. And thankfully, for the Browns organization, he ended up staying. But this is a very real thing in college football now. Guys are going through their agent, putting out feelers to other teams. Like it's a real thing. So Kirby complained.
That's what Coach L said was the reason he just walked out. He said the players were it didn't matter how good they did, what opportunity, every year they were going to get another offer somewhere else. And that is a difficult thing. They're going to have to come up with something, some plan with free agency. I don't know when it's going to be, hopefully soon, because, contracts or something. What's your thought on that?
I've been saying it for a while that I believe that's coming down the pipeline, that we are going to see some form of a scale back or just more regular in terms of NIL has become, because just the market continues to go over what the temperature was the prior year again and again and again, and guys are asking for more money and more money. And it comes to a point that how much money can these schools really pay these kids? Like, yes, I think it's an amazing thing that these kids can make money off their performance and what they bring to these schools and the viewership and whatnot. But there's always a limit to things. That sometimes too much of something is not always good either. There's always got to be a balance in life is what I believe. So I think we see that coming down the pipeline, that contracts with the new revenue share that they've been coming up with and will be passed through soon and become a thing. I think you're going to see a little more regulation come into this. Guys will have to sign contracts, and basically, you can't show up at a school for 1 year and say, yeah, I want this money or whatever. And then spring rolls around of your sophomore year, you say, all right, bye. I want to transfer to this school. And then, yeah, it's the wild west.
I wonder how that'll transition to the NFL, the NBA. It's like you got a guy jumping around. I mean, 5 years now they can play at different schools. It's rare that you get a guy that's been here like Xavier was 5 years here. That's gonna be a big rarity that kids are gonna play in one school with all the money that's coming at them. So hopefully,
definitely.
And the great thing about college, and it was better than better than what the pros, because the pros was like that. People complain all the time. I used to know all the players on my team. Now I'm not rooting for the players. I'm rooting for the uniform. College has separated itself. You had a guy. I mean, he may have left early. You know, you'd be upset. Lamar Miller leaving early. Whoever it is, they're going to leave a year early. We've seen so many guys. But now you're going to root for a kid, and now that he's going to leave, you're going to buy his NIL jersey, and then he's going to leave, and that's going to be difficult because college was what's the word I'm looking for? It was it was a lot more natural, more it wasn't like the NFL and the pros. It was college.
It was more pride in the school play.
Correct.
Guys weren't jumping around from team. Nowadays, you see, at least in football, see up to 15, 20 guys on average leave team, bringing in a whole 15, 20 guys on top of high school class, which will be over 20. So you're talking about seeing 35 to 40 new faces on your team every year. You look at the Colorado situation that they had over a year ago. They had I think it was close to almost 50 guys that left that program. Wow. That's crazy. That's a total roster turnover. Well, speaking of this, the basketball program now with Coach Lucas at UM, he has to a whole entire roster.
Well, that's actually a good thing if you're coming in, probably.
That's
you're coming in, you're getting because Coach L got pretty much a whole roster the year before. And okay, these guys, and I understand they came to the school, they're going somewhere else. But if you're nothing like walking into a university and the whole team is new. I mean, unless you had a talented team. When it was the Canes, obviously we're not an excellent team last year, as we saw by the record. But it's got to be good. These guys can get who they want. But it's going to be difficult for a coach to come in and take over a winning program, and the kids are going to go somewhere else probably. That's why when Alabama coach, when he went, you thought he was going to lose everybody. Michigan too, but they both, had decent years.
You know what's funny about that, Brett, with Nick Saban? I said something to quite a few people about, I think it was a year or 2 years before Nick Saban just abruptly decided that he was going to retire. And I told people, I think Nick Saban is going to end up walking away from the game. He's going to try to win another ringer, and he's going to walk away because, number one, he doesn't have much more left to prove. And number two, he doesn't really have an advantage anymore in the NIL era. Right. Back then, they used to have the car dealerships in Tuscaloosa, and the kids would get the cars and the Dodge Chargers and Challengers. And nowadays, you got NIL, and, he kind of lost that advantage. So, when people say, oh, he retired because – yeah, he did. He retired because of the NIL era.
Yeah, I think while I wasn't a big fan of Saban, I'm not going to be that Alabama coach. He would have. I think if he would have came back, that team would have been pretty good. But I just think, just like he didn't like in the NFL, the players being in control and the coaches really having not the amount of say. He didn't want 18, 19, 20-year-old kids saying, "Hey, coach, I'm leaving." It's like it. I think that's it. Like you said, he had nothing else to prove. That's like Coach L. These older coaches are not going to want to deal with it anymore. I mean, they're going to walk away. You need the guys like Chai Lucas or things like that are going to be there. Mario is even at that point. I mean, he doesn't mind it, but I'm sure he's saying, wow, I used to like it a lot better when I can actually go out and recruit somebody and not have to worry about, even though he wishes he was paid when he was a player, not that offensive lines are getting a fortune, but they're saying, do I really want to deal with these kids? He's here. Now next year I got to renegotiate his contract. It used to be he's going to be here for 4 years. And if he wants to leave, he's got to take a year off. Which wasn't always fair for the player.
It's so funny because the way it all started off with NIL, it was basically like this thing where it's really like your incoming guys or maybe a guy that's for into your program. You're playing roster retention, current guys on the roster, money there that how you have to potentially renegotiate a guy's contract. We look back to the Isaiah Horton situation. Would it have been great if Miami kept him? Yeah, of course. It would have been phenomenal if they could have kept him. But sometimes some guys, they may get more money somewhere else or a team may say to themselves, or their NIL collective or administration, they'll say, don't think this guy is really worth that much. If that guy feels that he is, he's going to go on the open market, and it's capital. It's
It used to be, you know what? If he was going to be able to leave in the old days under just scholarships, like, do we want to open up a scholarship? Which kind of they had that option. Well, we're going to let him go or something like that. He's going to sit out. We're not going to try to persuade him to stay. But now it's right. Do we want to spend $500,000 on? We only have, even though it's our boosters, even though it's going to be colleges that are paying them. But do we really want to spend this money? We only have so much, and we know what he can do. We maybe have better guys coming in. Is this someone that we want to spend all that money with? And maybe have to deal with the same thing next year.
I agree with you 100%. But I do think we will have some form, maybe not entirely normal, but something more close to normal within a year or two. And I think this is also another reason you see a ton of these kids now that are reclassifying left and right. And I know this here through the grapevine. Some of these NIL agents are telling these kids, hey, like, get to college now and make your payday now, as things may be the same in a couple of years here.
Exactly. Just like, in the draft, it was, now it's more slotted. Before it was free for all on who's getting paid what. But now it's slotted, and I think that's going to be the case here as well. Just a few more questions we're going to get to here. Let's see. Beck's O-line was terrible last year, Blue said. His receivers were top. I think his offensive line was not as good as it was. Would you agree on that, Gio?
I agree, especially on the receiver aspect. And even the tight ends. Like I know Georgia was really excited about Oscar Delp, number 4, the tight end they had last year, and he didn't really realize into what they expected. So there's just so many things going on. And by the way, Carson Beck's down year last year, some people call it down year, even though he had a year statistically. This he had last year is good for about second or time single season in Miami, right behind Cam Ward. So
wow, really?
I don't think people would complain even taking a season.
Considering if they think Cam Ward is the best quarterback we've ever had, despite the fact we've won 5 championships and have had 2 Heisman Trophy winners, which is kind of interesting. So we had Gino Torretta as a Heisman, and we had Vinny Testaverde as a Heisman, and they were not as good in college, supposedly, as Cam Ward, but Cam Ward did not win the Heisman. So it's strange how that goes.
I think he wins that Heisman if Miami beats Georgia Tech.
Definitely think so. If we're undefeated, he gets it. He was the favorite. There's no doubt about it in my mind as well. But the two-way player was a tough thing to beat. I mean, a guy that played almost every snap. What did he play? Like 90% of the snaps, 80% of the snaps? You don't see that.
He would average nearly – I think he would nearly have like 80, 90 snaps a game. That's crazy.
And he had a great season. I mean, he had a great season as a wide receiver, and he's one of the leaders in interceptions as well. So, and when he had the game at the beginning of the season, that he had that amazing catch and everything, I think it put everything in motion for him. But you're right. If Cam goes ahead and wins out, against Georgia Tech and Syracuse, he's probably the guy. I did see a stat today that in the 3 losses that we had, he threw 8 touchdowns and 0 interceptions, which usually is not the case when you lose games.
It's not his fault. It's not his fault.
Definitely not his fault. Definitely, and if he would have played the whole bowl game, we know, but that was not the plan for him to play the whole bowl game. And you know what? We don't have Beck. If we don't play him, maybe we don't go after Beck because we have Emory, and they say, we're going to go with Emory, because it seemed like that was a question that was really up in the air. Who's going to be our quarterback next year?
Yeah.
So if they don't, do you think that was possible? They don't make that play for Beck or if Emory has a good game in the second half?
I do think it's on the tip. Some people in the that they still had some belief that they felt that maybe Emory could be the guy one year, but hindsight's 20. But it's better that it played out that Miami
absolutely
really had and make the decision to go after a guy like Carson Beck. And I know there was a couple of other names out there, some that haven't even made it to public light that I'm aware about. Miami was very aggressive in that, and I landed a scenario.
We got lucky because I don't think anybody. I don't know if it was the relationship that he had at the time. I don't know if there's still a relationship. I don't think so, but there could be. But if there was a relationship at that time or whatever it did, he came to Miami. Obviously, the money didn't hurt, but every school's got money to pay these guys now. Let's see. Carson Beck to me. Juan Manuel says comparison would be Matt Leinart at USC. What do you think of that?
I think he's a bit more mobile than
I agree as well. I think Matt Leinart was a product of the athletes they had. I mean, they had Reggie Bush. They had who was their wide receiver?
They had Drew Jarrett, Lendale White. Oh man, they had guys.
They had the wide, yeah. So they had so much talent that USC.
They had the other Steve. His name was Steve Smith as well?
Steve Smith, exactly.
But there's another kid that named Steve Smith has played for.
Yeah, they were as talented, and he just similar to Dorsey. He'd throw the ball out there, and those guys would catch it. Now, nothing against Kenny, but you know what? When you have those kind of talent on your team, it's definitely not as hard. Strong arm, mobile, but a big-time QB. Yeah, I think you're right. I think he's a little bit more mobile. Beck. Jeff George was a Miami Hurricane. Yes, he was recruited by the Hurricanes. Juan Manuel, he was recruited by the Hurricanes. When I think we had, I don't know if we had Kosar and Vinny at that time, but it could have been.
I think it was Erickson that
was it Dennis Erickson? Okay, so I thought it was before that. We'll have to look that up. He's 57 years old right now when I was looking him up before. So 57 years old. He would have been 18 about 40 years ago. 40 years ago would put us about 85. No, maybe so about 85. So I thought it was under Howard or Jimmy, but we can look that up and see. Beck's game is similar. Yes, with Beck's stronger arm. Go watch him on the 2006 Rose Bowl. Okay. Jeff George was a Cane. Yes, we got that. Well, all right. So those are all the comment section. Before we go, Gio, can you cover again what who the big recruits were that we just brought in? What we did said first time at the beginning of the show.
Yeah, Miami brought in 2 offensive line last week. Joel Irvin, 7 over 3. 84-inch wingspan, offensive tackle from the west coast of Florida, Fort Myers area. They're super excited about him. Like this kid's a 3-star prospect. I don't even know too if you turn on.
I don't know how. I know that I saw a 3-star, a couple of 3-stars we got that would definitely be a 4-star at Alabama, maybe even higher. Yeah. But we know how that goes.
And then they also had J.J. Sparks from Jacksonville, Florida, the Bowles School, which Miami doesn't traditionally get guys from that school, but they have landed a commitment in JJ. And he actually committed to Miami over Florida State. Florida State really wanted him, pursuing him. I saw a couple Florida State fans say, huh? Who? But he actually had a visit scheduled there for a while.
Exactly. So that a lot of people are saying that. You see that all over. Everybody's got an opinion on social media. Let's see. Gio, let's pick somebody as the comment champion today for the $25 Canes card. Had someone in mind at the beginning, but do you have someone that you want to pick out?
Let's go with let's see. Let's go with Jacoby
Greggs. That's the second week in a row you've picked the same guy I was thinking about. So congratulations, Jacoby. Please send myself or Gio. You can do Canes _ wear at on X, or you can send Gio Million your information, your name, and your email that you use, and we'll send you a $25 gift card. Juan Manuel, I don't believe we from your winning week a couple of weeks ago, I don't think we ever got your information. So send it when you get a chance so we can shoot you over that $25 gift card as well. Remember, we've got our CanesWear flash sale tonight. For the next 45 minutes, If you buy something, actually, we'll make it till 12 o'clock since this show is on now. Till 12 o'clock, midnight. If you buy anything in the store up to $50, you get $25 off. So $25 off a $50 purchase. You buy something for $50, you get $25 off. Last time I checked, that was half. But you can get as much as you want. You get $25 off. And go to CanesWear.com. I appreciate you guys joining in. Gio, why don't you tell them where you're going to be and where they can find you?
You all can find me on X, if everyone's familiar with me, on X, formerly known as Twitter, at GeoMillion. You could also find us. I have a couple of different weekly show things that go on. Sometimes you can find me on Comics on Canes with Michael Yo. You can also find me on Canes, make some appearances there. And I got also a weekly show with Amon Richards that we do called Who Wants Smoke? Talk about everything in general. There's always content going on. And if you want the real juicy stuff, the private board as well. If you go on my X account at GeoMillion, there's a link right under the bio, and click right on there, subscribe to premium, and you'll get some really, really good stuff way ahead of time.
Wow, awesome stuff. So guys, check that out. Gio is awesome. As you know, one of the best in the business, and we're lucky to have him here on the CanesWear Show. Also, we're going to start another podcast soon. It's going to be on sports betting, sports futures. If you're into futures from football to basketball to golf, we're going to be starting that up soon. A little different kind of podcast, so stay tuned to hear more about that. And great show today, Gio. A lot of good things happening. Spring practices. Do we have a game this week too, or just the 12th or the 13th?
That's the 12th. There will be a scrimmage this Saturday, though.
There's a scrimmage this Saturday, but the spring game is it the 12th or the 13th? The 12th?
The 12th.
All right, well, good,
12th,
good
and it
stuff.
starts at 3:30.
3:30. Awesome. So, and that'll be what, about an hour?
Roughly a little over an hour. I know the gates open around like 1 o'clock or so for people to start parking and whatnot.
All right. Well, good stuff. Well, thank you everybody for joining the show, the CanesWear podcast. Remember, we're live on the FTSN network. If you can subscribe and like that, that would be awesome. Bobby and his team do a fantastic job of running that. Thank you everybody for joining us. Of course, go Canes. It's going to be a great season, so we're looking forward to it. Gio, thank you very much. We'll see you on the other side.